What's up, guys, and welcome to the Hollywood Dreams podcast. On today's episode, we talk with our friend Dave Hope, drummer for the amazing hard and heavy band Apocalyptic Lovers. This band was originally called Love and War and released an album back in 1994. In the 2010s, they reformed under the new name and released a kickass record, which you can find on Spotify and other streaming platforms. Join us as Dave tells us all about the new stuff he's been working on, the upcoming album, what other band members are working on, and of course, some great stories from when the band first got started back in the early 90s. So, without further ado, here's Dave Hope. Rock on! All right. Hey, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure having you here, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Just moved my family across country. I was living in Arizona for, over 20 plus years, and I just moved home back to Ohio. That inspired a new song that's going to be on our new record. It's kind of cool. And just kind of, hanging out and trying to decide if we want to sink our roots in here and buy a house or not. And also, always doing music stuff, So just kind of enjoying my kids and enjoying writing and recording and, that kind of stuff. Just, hey, getting by.
So that's awesome. So what are you working on musically?
Well, anybody that's familiar with our band that was originally called Love and War through the 90s and now Apocalyptic Lovers, we had an album out a while back that Michael Wagner helped us on, and enjoyed it so much we decided to keep on going. We weren't sure if we were going to, so I'm working on new music for that with my guitar player who does the bulk of the music writing, and my singer Rob, and our bass player Mike. So we're just demoing stuff back and forth and starting to get real excited about that. So that's all that I'm really doing. I've been moving across country and kind of crazy. My bass player Mike Nagy, he's a firefighter down in Virginia, and we're all from the Youngstown, Ohio area, but went separate ways after the end of the 90s hit. And Mike is currently doing like shows with a Leonard Skinner tribute band called Street Survivors in and around the Virginia area. That's really good. I even believe his wife Dawn is one of the backup singers, and they do a really good rendition of Skinner. So if anybody's out and around in Virginia and wants to see a good Skinner tribute band, they should check them out. And then my singer Rob is always dabbling in stuff, and he's doing right now. There's PR revving up for a release that he's got. Have you guys ever heard of the band Steel City?
I haven't.
No, not really.
Okay. Steel City is a guitar player named Mike Flores from my area of Youngstown, Ohio, but he's been living in LA for a long time. And he hooked up with Roy Cathy, who's the singer, old singer and current singer of the band Cold Sweat, and they were signed on MCA. And they had
Sweat.
Yeah. So Steel City had an album out not too long ago that was had Roy and Mike on it, and it was a fun, really cool 80s vibe record. And even though you live in the same area, you don't always run into one another and become friends. And Mike came to our show at the Whiskey A Go Go in LA because he was living out there, and kind of struck up a conversation with Rob and Mike, my bass player. And over time, I guess, of just sending, nowadays everybody sends files back and forth, and they do recordings or originals, and just everybody writes to write and have fun, and that's one of the reasons about us getting our band back together. Was one of the stipulations, I should say, by getting our band back together, that it was fun. Because if it wasn't fun anymore, we wouldn't do it anymore. So we wanted to keep it fun and also be open to letting people collaborate with other people. Because back in the day when we were Love and War, we were under a strict contract where we weren't allowed to do that stuff. And it kind of sucked. That wasn't kind of all that fun. So Rob connected with Mike, this guitar player, and they've been writing back and forth. So Rob's got a cool side project that just launched, and it's called Love in Chains. And they got the name from, I believe, a song off the old Paul Stanley solo record, because Mike Flores is like a real big Kiss fan. So the album, the project title, band title is Love in Chains, and I believe the album title, if my memory serves correct, is Everyday Heroes. And that just came out, and people can order that now, and they're going to do some shows. As a matter of fact, they're going to play on the East Coast at like a 3-day mini festival called Masquerade, being put on by BLE Entertainment, and that's going to be their first show. So that's going to be fun to see happen, and that'll cool. Bring more attention. Yeah, and that'll bring, the way I look at it is it brings more attention down the road to Apocalyptic Lovers, because more people that might not have seen Rob before will see Rob and be like, cool, what else does that guy do, And so that's kind of cool. So that's what we're all up to. The funny part of this whole equation is I was living in Arizona. My writing partner, Sean, my guitar player, was living on the East Coast over in, I believe, Rhode Island. And when I moved back here to Ohio, Sean moved to Arizona.
Oh,
so
man.
we switched. We basically switched coasts. And this is, to my knowledge, this is really all that Sean does. Is he and I write together, and he's committed to doing 2 or 3 live shows a year with us. So, he's having a good life living in Arizona, working and just writing music with us. And Mike and Rob are the ones pretty much out and about doing things. Like I said, Mike's with that, Skinner tribute band, and Rob is now doing this Love in Chains project. And I believe right after Love in Chains, Rob's putting out a solo project based on his last name, because it's Rob or Robert Kane, depending on how you know him. And I think his solo project is going to be Kane, and I think it's a mixture of covers and originals that he's done all by himself and with some friends. Oh. So we all try and keep busy and stuff, but for me, Apocalyptic Lovers is like my one thing. I've got 5 kids, a wife, and I work, so I have very little time to squeeze in. I don't know how those guys do those other projects. So, more power to them. But like Apocalyptic Lovers. Yeah. If it was back in the 80s, I'd be like, everybody's doing cocaine and staying up 24 hours a day. But I know at the age we're at, nobody's doing that shit. So it's just like,
I think it's like, how do they
find the time? Yeah, I don't know how they find the time. So, I'm just working on, I'm working on writing lyrics and coming up with song titles and plotting out the future of Apocalyptic Lovers, and that's what all those guys are up to. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's cool. I mean, it was kind of crazy how I just stumbled upon your band, and not even knowing there were ties to Ohio or anything. And man, that album rocks, man, all the way through. I know it's only 8 songs, but man, there's a lot of good stuff on those 8 songs. I can tell you that. And then, quickly, we made that connection, and I mean, it's just awesome. Right. And it's funny you're from Youngstown. That's where my dad was born. My dad was born in Youngstown.
Nice. That's cool. Dude, the weirdest, things happen for a reason. I got hacked on Facebook. And had I not been hacked, I don't think you and I were friends before on Facebook. And,
no, we weren't.
Because of those weird, it's a frustration that I met you, like, on one end, and also very elated on the other end. I'm elated that somebody new that likes this genre of music stumbled onto us. I'm elated that I made a connection, but it really, can you swear on your show?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It really fucking pisses me off that after all these years, you just stumble onto us. And that just shows you how much control Facebook and all these social media things have over, all these platforms. Because, I have friends that live, in between here in Arizona that have bands like this. I never see stuff on their bands in my feed unless they pay Facebook to promote something. And that is just so unfair, I think. And it's sad. It's a sad thing, because this album with Michael Wagner was out in 2016, and here you are in 2022, like, wow, this is awesome. This is new to me, and I'm just like, God. I'm like, man, we had a campaign for our vinyl record. We had a campaign for when we played the Whiskey A Go Go. We did a lot of PR, and then you didn't see any of that. That is a huge frustration to me as a band member and a temporary band. I wish I was temporary band manager. I seem to keep pushing this little train along, but it just is like, wow, somebody new found us and likes this kind of music that much. And you're from our own hood too. That's what's even crazier.
That's crazy when I look at that. Yeah, like and then we were talking earlier. You're naming all the clubs and all the venues that I was seeing shows at. You played the Agora, you played the Cleveland Agora.
Yep.
You played, I don't know if you played the Empire Concert Club, Flashes. I mean,
no.
Are you
talking about the recent one, or the? Are you talking about the Empire that's recent? That's
no,
the
not the one in
Akron area. You're talking about
Cleveland.
The one, by the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It was by Jacobs Field back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to see. I didn't play there, but I went to see Armored Saint there, and I saw LA Guns on the Hollywood Vampire Tour there.
Awesome I was at that show. We were at that same show.
Dude, that's crazy.
I have pictures of there's I don't know if it was an after party or a pre-party, but Phil was there in this big old fur coat, and I'm like,
dude, I was at that. It was a pre-party for record stores and stuff like that. And the label put it on. I was there. I have pictures at that party.
I snuck in. I think they were all.
Oh my god!
I
wonder if you photobombed any of my photos I have. I have to go look.
Yeah, take a look. I had longer hair then. I had hair. Period.
Dude, that is a huge frustration to me because, like, here's a perfect example. When back in the day, when everybody was on MySpace, and you switched over to Facebook, I was pretty much. I didn't know that I was going to get Love and War back up and running, and with the new name change and stuff. So a lot of the stuff on Facebook I was putting up there were old photographs I had scanned from Love and War and playing all those venues. I had a whole photo album, and I was tagging people, all that kind of stuff. And it's just amazing that you never stumbled onto us like that.
No.
Because I'd hashtag Flashes Concert Club, because we played the Odeon and the Draft House. Do you remember when it was the Draft House first?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because we played both. And I have pictures from all of that stuff. So it's amazing that somebody like you did not stumble onto us.
Yeah, and
I'm glad you finally did.
Yeah, I'm glad too, because all the years that I've missed out, and hopefully, with connecting with you, that maybe I can hear some of that stuff that I missed out on, and whatever is going to happen from here on out. I mean, you definitely going to have our support for sure. And,
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I can give you a little bit of background, and you've really not missed much if you listen to the new record. Because the long story short is when we were Love and War, I basically started in 1989 looking for musicians to do an all original band, because there was a local band here in Youngstown called Lazarus and another one called White Noise that I absolutely loved.
Now, White Noise ended up being Noisy Mama, right?
That is correct. And I went to see both of them, sneaking into bars without, fake ID and stuff. And I was in a cover band at the time and had been doing them all through high school. And a light bulb just clicked. And I'm like, I don't want to do covers anymore. I want to do this. Why am I doing covers? I'm like, I've learned every cover I want to learn, and this is a lot better, And that just sparked me. So in '89, I started the search, and I went through different lineups and different band names. But finally, my high school bass player, which was Mike Nagy, who's in the band now, and I was like, dude, what's going on now is not working. We need to scrap it all and just start over. So I ran an ad in, you remember Scene Magazine? Is it even still around, Scene Magazine?
Scene Magazine, oh man, it was around not that long ago. I don't know about like current day, like right now, but a few years back, it was still in publication. Not as much. Yeah. Because it used to be like every corner had a Scene Magazine box.
And you always looked at where to, what shows to go to and
always had
for musicians. So I ran an ad. So I ran an ad in there, dude, and like I can't tell you how many guitar players came down to Youngstown and from just from all around the general vicinity. And finally, just Sean answered the ad, and he came down and had a demo tape and played, and I was like, I'm in if you're in. And I don't know, it was almost immediate. I'm pretty sure it was just me and Mike and Sean. And once we had that core right there, I knew about Rob from another band in our area called Little Sister, and I was going to try and steal him. But the ironic thing is I'm pretty sure his band broke up right around the time we were looking for a singer. And as soon as Rob heard the demo, he wanted in. He's like, this is great stuff, So we did an EP up at, I think it was Primetime Studios or something like that, up in Akron or just outside of Cleveland. And it had, I don't even remember anymore, it was like 6, 7 songs on it, something like that. And it did well, and it was on Rock Wars on some station up in Akron, Akron, Cleveland area. And it, we had some songs, win 5 nights in a row, beating national acts, and we played the Akron. It was all great and dandy. And then we wrote a lot of originals over that period of time through the early 90s. And we really road tested and cultivated a lot of songs. So we then went in to do a full album. And that's where things started falling apart, because we had a manager who was, I think, for lack of better terms, just trying to beat the scene, because we were melodic metal or melodic rock or hair metal, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But you had a bunch of good-looking guys with long hair who looked like they bathed every day, and then Nirvana and Soundgarden were getting big, So we tried carrying that torch all through like 91 to 96, 7, something like that. And I think when we started doing that album, that's where the wheels started coming off, because we knew we had these great songs, but management was really rushing to get it out. And it just, the album did not come out the way we had really wanted it to, if for lack of better terms, right? And some other things happened. So, around 96, 97, the band split. Nobody hated each other or anything like that. We just kind of went our separate ways. And then come full circle, I think it was 2014, 2015, I was in Arizona, and I had some lyrics for the song Change of Frequency. And with the power of the internet at that point in time, because we didn't even have that back in the day like we do now, I reached out and found Sean and sent him the lyrics. And he's like, oh, it sounds like fun. I haven't written in a long time. And he sends me back music with the lyrics to Change of Frequency. And I'm like, oh my God, it sounds like Love and War, like all over again, So we kind of, long story short, we started things back up just as something. It was initially just something for us to do. Like, we all were like, what, we were never really happy with that CD. So the CD that's floating out there that you can find for like $300 online now is called War Rages On. And I wouldn't give it to anybody if I had it. I mean, I think I had a box of 50 of them, and I threw them in a dumpster before I left Arizona. I mean, I was that unhappy with how it sounded, right? So what happened is we had that new song. Then we had another song that we wrote about our manager called Who the Hell Are You, that we were playing live right before we broke up. And I just happened to have it on a cassette tape still, from, I think, practice. So what we did is we went back into a studio for our own purpose to re-record some songs and do them the way they should have been done in the first place, and which was 6 songs. So the whole idea was, and we were going to call it Redemption for ourselves. So we have our kids and our family would have something that we would be proud of to listen to after we're gone someday, just kind of like a bucket list kind of thing, And we did that. So basically, if you want to hear our old music, everything but Change of Frequency and Who the Hell Are You on that record is from the 90s that Sean wrote. All of it. Oh, okay. We just rewrote, we tweaked it, rewrote it, honed it, and re-recorded it. And I had a great time. I mean, everybody flew into Ohio, our old stomping grounds, recorded it. I did all the drum tracks in one day on a Friday. Everybody else came in on Saturday, did their parts. And because we really only had 2 new songs, everybody else kind of muscle memory takes over and you remember those old tunes. And I think Sunday we all woke up and went and did an acoustic gig for some local fans somewhere. and everybody went home, and everything was going great, and everybody was very pleased with how everything came out. Our good friend at Mind Rocket Recording Studios, Josh Roman, was mixing it, and unfortunately for Josh, I thought this would be the very last thing we ever did. So I can't leave things alone, and I'm just thinking, man, if this is the last thing we ever do, why not just go out big and find somebody who can really help us with this? So it really sounds bitchin'. And at this point, there was no plans on a name change. There was no plans on like playing out, nothing like that. And I basically sent 5 emails out to 5 producers from people in my record collection through the 80s. And that's how Michael Wagner ended up in the loop. He responded. He liked
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it was that simple. I mean, he responded to the email. Yeah, he liked the demos I sent him, because I didn't even send him the stuff we had recorded yet. I had some old demos that were further along that I sent him, and he's like, I really like the stuff. It reminds me of old Doc, and that'd be fun to work with. Why don't you guys come down and we'll get on it? And me and Rob are like, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening. So then things started to snowball. So basically, the whole idea was to do Redemption Volume 1, which would reintroduce people to stuff off the CD Love and War Rages On, right? And then we were going to do Redemption Volume 2, which would be the rest of the record with maybe a new song or two. And that was the whole idea, except then, the name change came. Then we did a record release party where we sold tickets to it in our hometown, and that sold out really well. And, then we did, what did we do after that? We always wanted it on vinyl. So then we did I think, I'm pretty sure Rob stumbled upon this thing that was like crowdsourcing for vinyl. And Mike and I are huge vinyl junkies. Like, we are massive vinyl nerds. And I'm like, well, how? Because, vinyl is very expensive to do, and there's a long wait and all that stuff. And we weren't doing a ton, So we were just like, well, let's try this and see if it works. And lo and behold, it worked. And we did all new artwork. We did all new artwork for the vinyl record. And that whole thing took a while to do and complete, and everybody around the world got that. And then that whole time I'd been working on like a bucket list gig for the Whiskey A Go-Go, and that panned out. And then we did the whiskey thing, and it's just like nicely snowballed from one thing to another. And we've not been really trying to do too much, but it's kind of neat because like now we're at the point where we were at the point where we were going to do like the Redemption Volume 2. And we just decided, you know what, and actually, to be honest, it was Sean's idea. He wasn't feeling the Redemption Volume 2 thing or like, rehashing old stuff anymore. And that might happen down the road just for the hell of it. But he's like, let's just do something and have it be all new, And I was like, he's like, if you want me still involved and to keep it fun for me, I want to do all new stuff. I'm not really interested in rehashing the past anymore. And the couple new songs we already had, I was very happy with, and so was everybody else. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. We're not on a label. Nobody controls us. Like, okay. So, fast forward, the damn drummer keeps holding everything up. Shit keeps happening, and there's.
It's always the drummers, man. Always the drummers.
Yeah, I know. Well, in hindsight, though, I have to say, though, I'm glad all the bad shit that's happened to me over the past 5 or 6 years, I'm glad it did, because we've really ended up with some incredible songs that have all transpired probably in the last year, that have weeded out some other songs that weren't so good. So I think when the new record comes out, it's just going to it's really going to surprise people and blow their minds. It's going to be a very good melodic rock album that, if anybody in the 80s grew up on like the early Dokken and stuff like that, is going to love. And if they're a kid that's a teenager these days that likes Metallica because of Stranger Things, they might even like it, because it's not going to sound super dated either. It's going to be good. I'm stoked, and I could talk about the new record forever. So I'll cut it there because I don't even remember the question you guys asked me.
So I wanted to ask you if the Love and War band name came from the Lillian Axe album.
Yes and no. How about that for an answer? And I'll tell you why. my mother, it's true on both parts. My mother, growing up, was a big reader, and we had a library of books. And one of the coolest looking books that she had when I was a kid was a book called Love and War. It had a really cool spine on it. And when I was in my cover band in high school, we were called Vice. You know, we thought we were going to take over the world as a cover band, and we even spelled Vice wrong because like Def Leppard and everybody else was spelling shit wrong. It was VYCE, you know. And I'm like, man, if I ever do an original band, I'd like to do, you know, that Love and War thing. That'd be a cool name for a band. And then, of course, Lillian Axe came out with the album Love and War, and I'd forgotten about the book by that point in time because that was years later. And I'm like, oh man, there's that name again. That's like an omen. We have to use it.
That's a
you know?
sign, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So and you know, I wish we still used it, to be quite honest, and I think the other guys in the bands did too. But we went to, let's see if I remember the order of this. We went to Los Angeles with our manager and the Cleveland Music Group. We were part of that, and it was like 94, 95 in that ballpark. We went to a hard rock heavy metal convention put on by Foundations Concrete Marketing, and it was called Foundations Forum. And that spawned a little snippet about us in an Entertainment Looking magazine. It had my name, my age, the name of our band, and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool because we went there with demo tapes back in the day, you know, because you didn't have demo CDs yet, you know, and we knew we were going to do a CD. So we got some demo tapes and had them made up. I think we went to this convention with like 500 cassette tapes, and those are very rare. So if that's the only place, we gave them all out, and it was, I think it was a whole 3 or 4 day long convention. I mean, like Yngwie was there, Dee Snider was there with Widowmaker, there's just Korn was there. It was huge, and it was the biggest party, and it was a lot of fun. But I was never like, our band honestly was never really into drugs or drinking. I mean, we drank a little bit, but nobody was ever into hardcore stuff. So like every morning, when everybody was all hungover and a mess, sleeping in, we stayed where the convention was at the Burbank Hilton. Every morning, like at, I don't know, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., I'd get up, and obviously we had those demo tapes that are at the booth, you know, but every morning I'd get up and go around the convention center and line all the urinals in the men's and women's bathrooms so our demo tapes. And yeah, right. And so I was watching yeah, well, you know, people got to pee, right? And that's what got the attention is I was sitting in on a what do you call it? A panel of women managers in the business. And there's like, it was like women movers and shakers in the business or something like that. And it was, you know, Jerry Miller from Metal Edge magazine, and it was Wendy Dio, and I can't even remember the others, to be honest. There was like 5 of them. And this guy sits down next to me, and he's like, hey, are you in that band Love and War? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, hey, I got one of your demo tapes in the bathroom, and I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to track you down. I'm like, cool, dude. So we like just sat there and talked. I'm talking 15 minutes, and that's the last I saw him. I don't even remember his name, and I enjoyed the rest of the Foundation's Forum and went home to Ohio from LA. And mind you, this is back in the day where, like, we're talking, this is like 94. Not everybody had a computer or Facebook and stuff like that. You know, I didn't even own a computer yet, to be honest with you. But our singer did, Rob. And I'm probably at the location wrong after all these years, you know, because you get old and you forget stuff. But all I remember is, like, I was home. Rob calls me, or it was at practice or something, but Rob's like, hey, some guy, a friend of mine contacted me, I think he said via email. He's like, you know, congratulations on the piece in Entertainment Looking magazine. And Rob's like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh yeah, there's a 2-page spread on that whole convention, and you're like the only unsigned independent artist they mentioned. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah. So, you know, of course we all go running to the, I don't know, Walden's or Borders or whatever it was back in the day to grab the magazines to look. And lo and behold, there's like a two-page spread on that convention. And there's a little tiny section that says location. It was like, best live performer, blah, 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 best something, blah, blah, blah. So it got to location. Dave Hope, Youngstown, Ohio, 24 years old, of the band Love and War, for putting his demos all around the, thing on the urinals, blah, blah, blah. And when he was asked why he was doing it, they quoted me. The only quote for me was, "People gotta pee," right? and so here's this national magazine with that in there, and we got 2 distribution deals out of it. We got this one place out of Indiana called Dream Disc International, who contacted us because of that article. And then I forget the other one. It was based out of, because I didn't deal with these people, our manager did, but I helped a lot with that end of it. There's another one out of LA run by some Asian, I'm pretty sure, I'm throwing this out there, I'm pretty sure he was a Japanese guy, and I think his name was Yoshi, but I could not tell you the name of, like, what the distribution company was. But that got our name really out there in the mid-90s. And it was at that point in time, it was right before we broke up. We were getting ready for some shows and stuff like that. And also, I think Sean at that point in time was also, I think we were on our 3rd bass player at that time. And Sean was just, I think, not feeling it anymore and thinking about moving home to Connecticut. We got hit with a cease and desist on 2 accounts. There was in the 90s and I never understood this. It was a television show called Love and War. And I never understand why a band couldn't have a name. But we got, it was legal papers from them. And also there was another Love and War down south somewhere, because our manager, I guess, only registered and checked the name in Ohio, not nationally, and the one down south had it longer. So, I mean, I guess we could have come back and been like, Love and War 1989, and just kept that with 1989 on it for just a fun year, or done, Rob Kane's Love and War. I don't know. We could have done something, but it's just at that point in time, I don't want to deal with stupidity of that kind of stuff, and I didn't want to also have any legal ramifications come after we've done a bunch of CDs and stuff. So that's when we decided to change the name. So, I mean, I think we'd all like to still have Love and War, but it just made more sense to kind of move forward and change it.
Right.
How did you come about the Apocalyptic Lovers name? How did that come out?
I wanted something that had the tone of Love and War. You have love and war. And honestly, I came up with it, and I think I had to twist arms in the band for people to go forward with it. And whether I was right or wrong for picking that name, it's worked for us. I honestly, to be quite honest with you, it was as simple as I got the new CD by Slash.
I'm about to say,
and there was a song.
Yeah.
There was a song. Actually, I was working out in the YMCA in Arizona, and I bought the CD, but I always stream first. So I was working out, and I was like, oh sweet, the new Slash came out today. So I put it on my earbuds, and I was like lifting or doing whatever I was doing. And Apocalyptic Lover came on, and I was like, this is a badass song. And I'm like thinking, man, this would be a cool name for a band. Just make it plural in the end, lovers instead of lover. And I remembered that, and I've always written stuff down. So I think at the time I had band names, and I stuck it in my notes on my phone, And I went back to the guys in the band, and probably the biggest hesitation was from Rob, and he's like, well, why do you want to use this? And I'm like, well, it sounds like an updated hard rock melodic metal band name. It doesn't sound like a cheesy name from the 80s, because all the cheap good names from the 80s are already taken, like, Rat, and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to come across, and no disrespect to any bands from Europe or even in the United States that are trying to revive the 80s thing. I think that's awesome. I'm so happy to see it happen. But some of the names that they're using, it's like they come across like Steel Panther, more of a parody than like an actual band name to me. So I wanted something that was like going to feel current. And I was like, I was like, Rob, it's not like we're Apocalyptic Lovers to the, like, I want to see, we're not a death metal band, we're not Slayer, and I don't want to see the world destroyed. I think of it more like the Apocalypse is the music industry and the Lovers is our band. Like, no matter how shitty this business gets, we still love it to write the music. And that's where it kind of all clicked with everybody. They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's how we kind of went from Love and War to how I found Apocalyptic Lovers and how we just went forward with it.
That's cool. I dig the names. Sometimes I have trouble saying it. Like, I don't know why. It's like my brain doesn't want to work.
I think if you watch our show, if you watch our show at the Whiskey, Sean at the end, like towards the second to last song, says our name. He's like, "We are the pop blah blah." He can't even say it. You know, it's a long band name.
I was trying to avoid saying it in this podcast, but I had to say it, and it was like, oh, did I? Was like, man, I screwed it up. Anyway,
sometimes I found if you like, you know, you're like the Beatles or the something, I have an easier time saying it if I make sure I always say the Apocalyptic Lovers. I don't know why that works, but every time I try and, like, Sean was like, we're I think he tried to go, we're Apocalyptic Lovers. It's just like blah blah blah. It just went all over.
I think I watched that video. I think I remember what you're talking. I think it's on the video I watched.
Yeah.
That show with the Whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we all, every one of us laugh about it because there's not a radio interview that doesn't go by, or a podcast, or a live show where one of us somebody doesn't tongue twist it, you know, for better or worse, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's funny because I was gonna ask about, you know, the Slash song, you know, and
yeah,
and it's
I hide nothing. I mean, I hide nothing. That's, you know, if I were to sit here and come up with some creative way of how we came up with that name, I'd be lying. I mean, I literally heard that song and I was like, that'd be cool. I mean, sometimes familiarity is the way to go with, you know.
Well, I mean, think of all the bands that took their names from, like, sweet songs. You know, you have Sweet FM.
Yeah.
That was a sweet song. AC/DC.
Yeah.
I don't think AC/DC got the name from a sweet song, but it's
wasn't Diamond Star Halos, Def Leppard. That's something with them, isn't it?
That's a lyric on I think it was a T-Rex.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So I mean, it's a lot of people wear their influences on their sleeve, man, and it may come out in a song, it may come out in a name, it could come out in, you know, many different forms. And then there's nothing wrong with that.
You know, speaking of our new record, it's for I know in the past I've come on shows or put in print, it's coming out, blah blah blah, and you're not gonna lie, the drummers held it up. I've had stuff from moving across the country to losing jobs to a local newspaper asked us to do something, you know, if we had something coming out, and I'm like, yeah, of course we do. It's gonna be out in 2022, and then I got COVID, and it really, you know, I missed over a month of work. It attacked my back. I couldn't even sit behind the drum. I couldn't sit or stand. I mean, my back was, I don't know. Some people have that. I thought I was unique to me, but I've stumbled on other people who've had the problem with COVID and this thing with their lower back. It's awful. So I really thought my drum parts would be all done and recorded by now for the new record. But I'm seriously booked studio time. I'm going in September. So this album, without a doubt, will be out in 2023. And going back to what you were just saying, so it doesn't sound like I'm going off on something random, we're going to wear our heart on our sleeve big time on this new record, because since Sean was the main writer in the band, and his major influence, without a doubt, hands down, and I didn't realize this for many years. This is funny. All those years in Love and War, I always thought, you know, all of us always talked about Dokken, and Saigon Kick. You know, those were like the bands we all agreed upon. I always assumed it was like George Lynch, Eddie Van Halen, you know, something in that ballpark, right? Well, as Sean does very little PR. He hates social media. Pretty much hates everything except writing music, it seems like, as far as when it comes to the music business. I got him to do a radio interview, or I'm sorry, a podcast interview, and he started going off about his major influences in guitar playing life, because the guy asked the question, and it's Randy Rhoads. And I'm like, I never knew that. He's been in my band for God knows how long, you know? And I was like, that's so not too long ago, I'd say maybe a year ago at the most, you know, we were having a conversation about, oh, I know when it was. The new Ozzy came out. The one where he's got the black hat on and the black wings. I forget the name of the record, but that last album he just did. So I was, you know, asking him what he thought of it, and we were talking about it. And then it led to like his influences. So I was like, you know what? And also backtracking a little bit, we were even going to do a covers record, but we all could not agree on the songs going on it. So that kind of like fell through. And I was like, you know what, dude? I'm like, you wrote all this music for this band, and I just, you know, and I don't even like putting covers on records, but I was like, you know what? Pick any Ozzy song you want that's the Randy Rhoads era, that's your biggest influence, and, you know, we'll put it on the record. I go, but then I stopped a second, and he was like, really? And it's like, that'd be awesome. And he's like all into it. And of course, like 10 minutes later, I text him back. I go, I only have one stipulation, of course. And he's like, of course. I was like, it doesn't sound like an exact copy. I go, I like covers where, you know, bands put their own stamp on the song. Yeah. And he's like, done. And I swear to God, 2 days later, he sent it back to me, the demo all done, you know? So we're going to have that. So it was going to be only one cover on the record, but then Rob always sends me stuff. Yeah, he always sends me stuff. And there was a certain band that I'd say there's a lot of music. There's a lot of stuff we have. There's a lot of differences in this band as far as music direction goes, which is good because I think you can pull from them and come up with original sounding stuff. But there's about, I'd say, a half a dozen bands where we really all agree and hone in on, you know? So there was a certain band in a title, and he'll send me files. Like, I'll send 3 or 4 covers over. Just, you know, how's this mix sound? Or what do you think of this cover? Because he's a studio junkie. Love Rob, you know, in his free time, Rob loves to get into his home studio and record, you know, cover tunes with friends he's met through the internet all over the country with guitar players or local friends. And it's just what he does, and he likes and enjoys to do, which is cool. And he sent me one that really caught my eye. And it's not even the favorite song of mine from this band, right? But it caught my eye. So I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to have to check that out. Song, and here's how good Rob sings this song. It's hardly different at all from the original. But I was like, and I text him back. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I'm like, that is amazing. And I go, I don't even like that song originally that much. He's like, really? He's like, I thought you'd like that song. I'm like, no, I don't even like that album that much by that band. I go, there's like 2 good songs on that, which we always argue about. And so I was like, what's the deal with that? He's like, oh, I don't know. Like 3-4 years ago, I was talking to Sean about it. And Sean sent me the music so I could do the vocal. And I don't know if he said he sat on it for a while or he did it and forgot to show it to me. But it's like 3 or 4 years old. And he just laid the vocals down on it. And he sent it to me. I'm like, dude, that is the most aggressive. I go, that's one of the best vocal takes and most aggressive I've ever heard you sing in all these years I've known you. I go, I'm going to just throw this out there right now. Would you mind if we put that on the record? Because it's going to really set the tone for the album. And he's like, really? I'm like, dude. I'm like, yeah, it's got to go on the record. And it'll be a nice nod of the cap to the one of the bands we like so much. He's like, yeah, I don't care. So the new album's going to have, I no more than 12 songs, but within whatever number we settle on, there's, you know, begrudgingly to me, because I hate when there's covers on albums, there are going to be 2 covers on it. So I think where we're going to end up is 10 originals and 2 covers. And the originals blend well with the covers, and it's going to just really surprise people and smoke. We are taking it. I can tell you this: we're taking the album title from another nod of the cab. We're calling it "Lightning Strikes Again." We finally settled on an album title, and that's obviously a nod to Dokken.
Yeah, obviously.
So we have a nod to. Yeah, we got a nod to Dokken. We got a nod to Ozzy, and there's another cover song that is another nod to another band. So it's just going to be. I got like right now talking about it because you guys are the first person I've talked to about since all these updates have come. I got like my hair standing up on my arms because the demos are coming out so good, and I'm just thrilled. I can't wait for everybody to hear it. So I'm going in studio in September, and at some point in 2023 that record's coming out. So
yeah, I can't wait to hear it, man. I mean, just
Yeah,
just you talking about it's getting me pumped up about it. I'm like, that's gonna be good.
yeah, I hope so. I hope people like it. Watch everybody be like, oh man, they suck. Why'd they go that route?
Man, I
Can't
definitely
please
don't see
everybody,
that.
you
I
know?
don't see that happening at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I
I
hope
try to
so.
plug you guys as much as I can, man. And you know, I know it's going to be good. I know it's going to be good.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it.
Do you have any
Go ahead.
shows planned?
Uh, kind of what, because we're not tied with a real manager, and it's just me trying to like push this humble ship along, and no label or anything. Basically, it's like one goal at a time. So I want to get the drum tracks down. We want to get the album recorded. There's, I'd say 2 or 3 indie labels that I want to get it to before we try and put it out on our own. And there's one major label, but it's not a major label, but it's a very large independent label that was, and I'm not gonna lie, it's through a friend of a friend. Well, it's not even a friend of a friend. It's somebody I knew from back in our Love and War days.
Yeah.
That is affiliated with a larger indie label that was kind of curious what our new stuff was. They're like, when it's all done, would you mind sending it? Because I'd like to check it out, because maybe we could help you guys. And if they can't, it's a whole different game these days, and it just doesn't. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because of course it would be helpful to get some bigger distribution without having to do it all yourself. But we'll see what happens. So at that point in time, I want to make sure everything's all buttoned up and ready to go. And yes, we want to do shows to support this record. Because everything was like by the seat of our pants last time around, because we weren't even thinking of shows. We really didn't get to do that. Like, God, it helps. It's like when we did that Whiskey A Go-Go show, I was like, you know what, guys, we probably should. We had nothing for that show except we were like, yay, we finally get to play the whiskey, that's a whole nother story. Maybe we'll do another podcast, and I could go off tell you about that when I was in LA in the 90s. That's a whole nother can of worms with that all got screwed up first, because the whiskey was a bucket list gig, because we always wanted to play it there, and so did our manager wanted us to play there, but that all got screwed up, and there's no blame on the band or the club. I'll just leave it at that. So where was I going with this? I totally lost track, and I always do this. Talking about, oh my God, what was I even saying, you guys? I'm getting old.
You were talking about the upcoming shows, basically.
Oh, going back to shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. All right, shows, thanks. So basically, we're flying by the seat of our pants, and merchandise and stuff like that. So we played the whiskey, and we had no merch. And I'm like, we should probably get some merch together for the show, since we never played there before. And so I think we had 40 shirts printed up, and I was just going to do a small run, because we ran out of the CD, and we all talked, and I'm like, we really should do a limited edition special version of the CD. So we did all new artwork for it. My wife did all the artwork for the new one. And then, because like the original CD only had I think it's one little panel that came out, and it had one picture, some thanks, and that was it. It was very bare bones, because we didn't have a lot of money to be sinking into stuff. So for the whiskey, we had all the lyrics in it, all new artwork, and we even added a bonus song. That's a song so far still going to make it on the album, called Gasoline. It's a song I wrote about my wife. And so we put a bonus track on it to make it special for the whiskey. And I was like, let's take 50, 75, 100 CDs there. And my wife was like, no, you know what? Do 200. I'm like, why am I going to do 200? We'll never sell that many. And she's like, well, why don't you take 100 with you, and then you have, some to distribute to some local record stores, and they can sell it, because they'll have it in stock. Each one of you can take some CDs home. When we all meet in LA, everybody can grab a handful. Mike can take some from Virginia, Rob can take some to Pittsburgh, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, I guess that makes sense. So we did that. Fast forward, we played the show, and we came home with, I think, 3 or 4 T-shirts, which I then put on Facebook and sold those. So all our shirts were gone. And before we went to LA, I was, starting to pack the CDs, and my wife's like, no, pack those all up. I go, I'm not dragging 200 CDs to freaking LA when I'm going to probably sell like 25 in the club. She's like, no, you need to take it. It's Dokken. People are going to like you guys. So she twisted my arm because I'm lazy. I'm like a drummer. I'm like, really? I'm taking my cymbals. I'm taking like kick pedals. I'm taking all this gear. The last thing I'll do is be lugging CDs around because, none of the guys in the band ever helped me carry shit anyway. It's just how it works. Like, I'm like all bitching and stuff. She's like, load it up. I'm like, fine. So I did. And we had some local girls work our merch booth there. And of the 200 CDs we took there with us, I came home with 34 CDs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because like literally, we mark. One thing I will say is like when it comes to marketing our band and our fans, because we don't play out a lot, they travel. Because we toured like the tri-state area, and we did well everywhere, pretty well everywhere we went, unless there was like some crazy weather thing or how that stuff goes. Holidays sometimes can affect attendance, but there wasn't a lot of new bands playing that kind of music, so we did play somewhere. So that kind of carried over. We when we play, our fans travel well, and we played Easter weekend at the Whiskey A Go Go, and it was awesome because we had a video for it, and I was doing I pulled out all the stops for marketing that I could think of, and so did my wife, and because that's what she was doing for a living for a while, and it was cool because we were we were like on 3rd or something like that, and out of 5 bands, with Dokken, I think, being the 5th band. And the very first band was like these really young guys who I really liked them. They were like a stoner. They were kind of like old school Metallica meets stoner rock. And their name escapes me right now because I wasn't preparing for this interview today, to be honest. And it was the last minute for me. But I remember being in the dressing room, and we shared a dressing room with them. Everybody shares except for the headliner. So you have like 2 bands per room, and these guys were probably in their early 20s, and they went on first. So they were the last ones to go on and set up gear and stuff. And they came up, and the one guy looked kind of like a deer in headlights. And I was like, what's going on, dude? And he's like, man, there's a lot of people down there. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, this is like our 3rd or 4th show here, and we've never played to more than like 15 people this early. So like, usually people don't show up this early. And I'm like, really? So they had a really nice tight crowd early. And by the time we went on 3rd, the place, you could not even move in it. Like down below and up top, it was like, that kind of night where you're at a club and you're like trying to hold your beer up above everybody so you don't spill it. That's how full it was. Yeah. And so after the night was done and all that kind of stuff, our rep that booked us at the Whiskey was like, that's the best crowd. He was like, that was one of the best crowds that we've had to hear this early for, a non-headlining band in quite a while. And he's like, I'm pretty sure it was due to your guys' marketing. He's like, you guys did really well. We'd love to have you back, and it was just because I've seen other bands there that have play out quite a bit, that have gone there and about the same slot or even later and not as many people, So I think those Dokken fans, I had somebody, we sold our tickets online for that show, and there was a couple from the UK that liked us a lot, loved Dokken, and always wanted to go to the Whiskey Go Go in the States. So it was like a bucket list thing for them. They bought tickets off us and went, and then same thing, another couple from Canada. And then, some of our diehard fans from either the local area where we used to be. And it was cool, man. But, so just in full circle, it's like, it was cool to sell those CDs and amazing. And this time around, to come answer your question, it's like, I really want to make sure we don't put the cart before the horse and we plan this thing. So when the record does come out, we're supporting it with some shows. So I'm hoping at the bare minimum, the bare minimum I'd like to do is like, we're all married, have kids, older, and this is not something like we're gonna like, oh, we're gonna tour and we're gonna get a big record deal and ride on a bus and be famous. We're so past all that. You know what I mean? We look at this more like an adult rock and roll fantasy camp where it's cool to get together and see one another, and see each other in a while, and play our originals and entertain people, and then everybody goes home. It's awesome.
That'd be cool.
So
hopefully you can book a gig in Cleveland.
Well, what we want to do is I'd like to do, because if you oversaturate, especially with a band like us, you won't get the turnout. So what we're hoping to do is like either a one show a month or one show every other month, and really market it and push it hard. And the Whiskey, invited us back to do our record release party there. So that's a West Coast gig we can do. I want to do something on the East Coast, either in Baltimore or Philly or New York. I want to do a hometown gig, whether it's Cleveland or Youngstown or Pittsburgh, you know what I mean? And then I don't know where else. It kind of depends where our target audience would be, because I'd like to go and play at different places with a Dokken or with insert whatever band fits our genre. Another bucket list thing. I would love to play a gig with Y&T. I think Dave, they're one of the most underrated band, and Dave is such an unbelievable singer and guitar player, and talk about another inspiration for that kind of music. So to open up for Y&T somewhere would just be awesome. And I'm not a fan, Sean's not a fan, but my bass player and singer are geeked out, huge fans of Stryper. Sean and I don't hate them. It's just not our cup of tea, Mm-hmm. But right. Mike and Rob would probably lick their own balls if they could open up for Stryper. It would seriously thrill them to death. So if I could make that happen, to play a show with Stryper or a couple shows with Stryper, I'd be happy to, and that'd be a lot of fun. So it's when that album comes out, we want to support it and see if we can get some legs and sell some units. So I think that would be fun.
Yeah, that'll be real cool. I mean, I hope it works out for you guys. I mean, you definitely deserve it. Definitely deserve to be heard. And that'd be really cool. And actually, like, the later stuff that Stryper has been putting out has actually been pretty good. I've been impressed with it more than I was what they were doing in the 80s. I'm more impressed with what they do now. So,
I can't speak for Sean, but for myself, it's more of, how everybody, like I said earlier, everybody hears something different when you listen to music, Mm-hmm. He hits every note and he's on key without a doubt, but there's something with Michael Sweet's voice in my ears. It's not my cup of tea.
It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. It's like another example is like, I love Jeff Tate. I know people that can't stand Jeff Tate. They're like, oh, he's so operatic, and it's each tinge of it. I think Stryper's songs are fine. It's just his voice bugs me. And there's like that new band Iconic.
I have the same opinion as you. I have the same problem with him. I like Stryper music. I think it's good, but I just can't hear too much of it on a row, because I just can't stand it. It's too too loud, too operatic. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of in the same ballpark for me. It's like that new band Iconic came out, and I was really psyched to hear that. But the initial press for that was, Michael was only, there's a guitar player. I think he's smoking. I think he's right up there with Eddie Van Halen and stuff. But that Iconic record, he sings on it still. Even though they have a lead singer, he still had to sing lead on some songs, or share leads. And I'm like, stop. So, But, I mean, to each their own. I mean, I still like their music, and I think they're probably really, really good people. They're a talented band. When I was in Vegas, we were at the Hair Metal Music Awards in Vegas a few years ago, and I saw Oz Fox playing with like a super group cover band, that had Blas Elias on drums, and Oz was singing and playing guitar. Dude, that Oz Fox he's such an underrated guitar player, and his vocals, you should have heard him singing all these different covers. He was amazing. He's a great singer.
Yeah, that would definitely be cool to see, especially he was, him going through all those health issues he had too. It's good to see him out there and doing stuff. That's awesome.
So, but I would love I would love to do shows with any of those kind of bands. You know, if it was 12 months and one show a month, or if it was 12 months, one show every other month, it's got to be something this time. And that, you know, that does bring me to a point where I'll bring up something I've really not put out there heavily yet. But Sean is only our lead guitar player and my writing partner from the get-go is only committed to 2, maybe 3 shows a year, you know, unless it's some really gigantic bucket list thing. Like, you know, if we were to, if I'm pretty, it's safe to say if we were to book a half a dozen shows in the UK, I'm pretty certain Sean would play all 6. You know, that's kind of like out of the norm and a big bucket list thing for us. But as far as, you know, playing in the States and stuff, he just has no desire to play live. I would even say, I'm guessing, I'm not repeating he's something said to me, but I think he has a lot of anxiety when he plays live, because when we play live, he ends up being our front man. He talks a lot, and in a good way. He's great at it. It's kind of like, you ever see Cheap Trick live and Rick Nielsen kind of takes over the front man duties from the lead singer Robin? You know, it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's kind of like that when we play live with the original 4 original members. But like I said, we want to do more shows, and Sean was like, by all means, do what you have to do. It'd be awesome. So what we want to do is we're going to try, and I'd like to find somebody local within, I'd say, the Youngstown area, or even within our driving distance, like Pittsburgh or Cleveland. We're going to add a set, and I don't want a hired gun. We're not going to sit there and pay somebody to come out and play with us. I want somebody that wants to be a full-time second lead guitar player in our band. So, you know, some shows will be a 5-piece and have a 2-guitar attack, and other shows, if Sean can't make it, this guy can cover all the parts and do what Sean does now, which is, you know, a tall order in my opinion, because Sean's not a slack on guitar at all. I think he's one of the best around. So we are going to do a search for a second lead guitar player to do shows with us. And even, you know, if I find them soon enough, they're more than even welcome to record on the record with us too. But they got to be somebody that's on the same page, that wants to be in it for the music. Because if anybody wants to be in it for the stardom and money, this is the wrong business to get into.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna suggest Dave, but he's in it for the star and the money, so I don't think it's gonna quite fit.
That's exactly why I'm in it, and the girls.
Yeah.
And the girls.
Yeah, that's why he's on this podcast. Yeah. I mean, we just can't. The girls, man, we can't. We can't shake them off. I mean,
you know, that's why I hitched my wagon to Santi's Star.
That's funny.
Yeah. So Dave, that's a good segue actually, because we always wrap this up with a little top 3 favorite albums, and you were talking about your influences and stuff. So, what would you say are your top 3 favorite albums, all-time favorite albums?
Oh, geez. I mean, you know, I grew up in a house where my grandmother, my family moved into her house, so she was the concert pianist for the local symphony, you know. Mm-hmm. So I grew up around a lot of classical music, and that, I think, broadened my ears to, like, when I turned on to rock and roll. And then for, I think, 11 and a half years, you know, I managed what was called National Record Mart, which was a music chain where we sold CDs, tapes, and vinyl, you know. And I've just been so swamped with music over my entire lifetime. I could probably answer that question differently every day, you know, because I think music is about how it's how you feel and your mood, you know. And sometimes you're like, I'm in a pissed off mood, I need to listen to Pantera, or I'm really pissed off and need to chill out, I need to listen to Coldplay. I mean, I'm not a Coldplay fan, but I'm just using that as an extreme opposite, you know. So I love U2. I love U2. I love In Excess. You know, I love Dokken. I love Rad. I love Motley Crue. You know, and then I have Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation on vinyl and CD. You know, I am like all over the ballpark. You know, I pull from everywhere. I like all that stuff. I mean, if I was gonna go in this genre, God, I don't even know what order I put them in. The first thing when you say the first album that comes to mind all the time, because I think it's hard when you say albums, that means you need to be able to listen to something front to back. And there's not, even from, a lot of people's favorite bands, I don't think something you could do front to back. Because some stuff doesn't age well, or maybe there was some filler. The one thing that does come to mind is Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. I mean, that album for me is perfect beginning to end. It's produced perfectly, written perfectly. I mean, they couldn't even duplicate it. When Jeff Tate went off, and the rumor has it there was a lot of people that weren't even in the band that actually did that Operation Mindcrime Volume 2. Not even remotely close. It was not good, and so that's kind of like one of those, lightning in a bottle kind of albums, So that's an awesome album. Oh my gosh. Mindcrime, I would have to say I would have a tie for second place for me. I'm sure other people would disagree, but I love two Dokken records about equally. I love Tooth and Nail, and I love Back for the Attack. Songwriting wise and production wise. A lot of people bitch about the production on Tooth and Nail because it's so dated, but I think that's what makes it so good. It's really edgy to me. I like those a lot. And probably this is going to sound really weird because it's not like a written record, but what I remember listening to a lot, when you were a kid, you're like a teenager, right? And you're driving around and you're going to your record store and buying that new album and cranking it in your car, driving around listening to it. I can remember buying this record, and a lot of those records you crank and they kind of like had a certain lifespan, right? You'd kind of like, oh, this is great. And then you'd still listen to it, but maybe not nearly as much or at all for even like a year. And you go back to it like, oh, this album is great. One record that I can remember always listening to through high school and even college was the Scorpions' Worldwide Live. I think that is hands down one of the best live albums ever done. And the songs on it are incredible. It's like they have the perfect time capsule for that band on one record right there. They put some good stuff out after that, but if you talk about a time capsule, you put that up against any greatest hits or any live record, and that Worldwide Live for me really holds its weight. I really love that thing. I still listen to it to this day. So I enjoy live records. I really, I think they're fun to listen to. I like to hear the crowd reaction and all that kind of stuff. So I guess, for right now, today, when you're asking me, those are the ones I tell you.
All right. I mean, those are good.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. All right. So Dave, I mean, it was a pleasure having you here. I was a great fan talking with you. We could talk with you for hours, I think, right, Dave?
I know I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I could talk about music. About my band members' bands or friends of band members' bands, and and I could just talk music all day long. When you get older and you have kids and you're going in a different direction professionally, it's really nice to come back and talk to people who want to talk about music.
Well, we can definitely have you back when that album, the new album comes out, or when you have anything to announce. You're a friend of the show now, so you can always come back.
That's awesome. I'd be happy to, and hopefully next time I can bring Rob or somebody with me. They were all busy today, but I'm pretty sure when we do work the next album, Rob and Mike and or both will be available, so we'll have to all get together and chat.
Yeah, when you messaged me that earlier or yesterday, I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome to have him on too. That'd be cool. But hey, like he said, you're always welcome back. So maybe next time it'd be awesome.
Definitely.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for having me, and I'm sure we'll also work on some things together in the future too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Dave. So thanks for being on the show, and I hope the record goes great.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, take care, man.
Take care.
All right, folks. Sadly, that's all the time we have for today, but what an episode, right? Don't forget to hit the follow button on Spotify and share it with your friends. You can also follow us on Instagram at hollywood.dreams.podcast. And rock on!